can still hear that voice.
What?
It's here!
Man, this was a different kind of movie, you know, and at the time it was very groundbreaking as well, you know. It was filmed like in a very different way, and it was terrifying, but in a way you don't normally see, you know, with scary movies. Insidious follows a family trying to prevent evil spirits from trapping their comatose child in a realm called the Further. So I remember seeing this movie in the theater, you know, opening weekend, you know, and I knew this was going to be something special just from the opening scene, you know. Like I'm watching it and you're looking at this weird looking lamp. You don't know if it's on which where it is, and then it turns upside down, right? And then it pans down and you realize you're on the ceiling, and it pans down from the ceiling, and then boom, you're in the scene. It was right off the bat, you know. I just knew that this was going to be something different, you know. And another thing too that, you know, I really loved about this movie, and I think just what made it just so like just creepy and scary and terrifying, was that it doesn't have your normal jump scares. You know, this stuff is like, it's just different. Now, I just loved that the movie, you know, it really puts you in the shoes of the people kind of stuck in this crazy kind of ordeal, you know, because in some scenes, it's like you're watching the people go through it. You're just watching the movie, you know, but in other scenes, you're really seeing things like from their perspective, you know, and I just thought just that type of filmmaking and the way they filmed it was just brilliant. Something that I noticed in this movie is that there's a lot of, you know, certain scenes that have like an uncomfortable intensity about them. And even if it's just like a regular conversation, you know, like when Elise talks to Dalton Lambert's parents, you know. Another thing I did notice that I thought was kind of interesting as well is that, you know, most of these movies that have all this kind of supernatural stuff going on, like a haunting or something similar, the couple, you know, wants to move houses, but they can't. You know, in this case, you know, the couple actually, you know, moves houses. They actually do it, you know, and it still doesn't work.
And the reason these disturbances, they followed you to a new home, is because it's not the house that's haunted. It's your son.
That whole scene is just crazy, you know, because I've never seen, you know, in a movie where this exact thing happens, you know. So the whole thing was just like intriguing, but also just kind of interesting at the same time.
Have you ever heard of astral projection?
Yes, is the out-of-body experience or something?
Well, I like to call them travelers.
Just the whole idea was so different, you know, and I just really enjoyed that this wasn't like a cookie cutter type of movie, you know. It was just kind of new, scary adventure. Now, the seance scene in the movie was just so interesting to me because you have this kind of, you know, you have the seance idea, right? But they put this whole new kind of spin on it, you know? They're hooking this lady up to all this weird looking equipment, and you're just like, what is happening here? Now, one of my favorite things about this movie, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, is that your jump scares are not your typical jump scares, you know, and what I mean by this, and again, this is something you kind of have to, you know, see the movie to kind of really get what I'm saying, is that you may, you know, watch a scene where there's a demon that may flash by a window or something, but there's no noise or anything that goes with it, you know? So you could see something in one scene, and then you may have another scene later on where something else happens, but because there's no noise or anything when something flashes by, you know, you may not even notice it, but the person next to you may have seen it. So it makes this kind of psychological thing that it was just it was filmed in such a brilliant way. Like that whole idea to kind of remove the sound and kind of not try to like direct your eyes towards something, just let you kind of experience the environment, and then see what you see and miss what you don't see. That was just so interesting to me, and it really just made the movie just even more terrifying. All in all, this is just an excellent movie in general. It's scary, but in ways you don't expect. And in my opinion, this really is the true definition of a movie theater worthy experience. If you haven't seen this, I highly recommend giving this one a shot. I love this movie. And my only recommendation, or my only I guess I would say suggestion for it, is just to make sure you watch it at night. It is more than worth it.